The clippers in the nurse's office hummed with a fierce wasp-like intensity, slicing through the air as 12-year-old Ariel Daniels watched her carefully woven braids tumble to the cold linoleum floor. Each snip exposed the secret she guarded so fiercely, her alopecia, the condition that left her scalp patchy and bare beneath those protective strands. Can you imagine the sting of that moment? Ms. Rohr, her 7th-grade teacher, stood there, arms crossed, a glint of triumph in her narrowed eyes as she urged the school nurse to keep shaving, to strip away every last bit of Ariel's shield until nothing remained but raw vulnerability. She'd zeroed in on the perfect target, a soft-spoken artist, her military mother deployed far across the globe, her medical condition an open wound for cruelty to exploit. But Ms. Rohr didn't know about the tiny spark of defiance flickering in that room. Ariel's best friend, Maya, hidden in the shadows, had her phone out, capturing every second of this injustice. That single video, a silent cry for help, would race across oceans to reach Lieutenant Colonel Naomi Daniels's phone, a mother who'd faced battlefields and wasn't about to let this slide. The school thought they'd swept it under the rug with a flimsy one-day suspension for Ms. Rohr and a vague statement that barely acknowledged the incident. Oh, how wrong they were. They hadn't just humiliated a child, they'd ignited a fire in a woman who'd led battalions, who knew the weight of command and the cost of standing up for what's right. 3 days later, when Naomi Daniels strode through those school doors, her military uniform crisp and her presence undeniable, the hallway fell deathly quiet. Could you feel the air shift? Every student, every teacher, every whispered conversation stopped cold. This wasn't about hair anymore, no, this was about justice, and Naomi was here to demand it. Sunlight poured through the classroom blinds, painting warm, golden stripes across Ariel Daniels's desk. The 12-year-old sat there, her shoulders hunched, her pencil dancing across the pages of her journal in delicate, purposeful strokes. She was sketching a bird, its wings spread wide, soaring into an endless sky. Those intricate braids of hers, falling forward to frame her face, weren't just a style, they were her armor, carefully chosen to hide the bald patches alopecia had carved into her scalp since she was 9. Did she ever think someone would try to rip that armor away? She kept her head low, letting the braids shield her from curious eyes, exactly the way she liked it.
Ariel Daniels.
Ms. Rohr's voice sliced through the hum of the classroom like a blade. What on earth are you doing? Ariel's pencil froze mid-stroke, her heart giving a little jolt. Just finishing my notes, Miss Rohr, she murmured, her voice soft, her eyes fixed on the desk. Ms. Rohr's heels clicked sharply against the linoleum as she marched down the aisle, her arms crossed so tightly it was a wonder she could breathe. At 47, Evelyn Rohr had been molding 7th graders for over 2 decades, and she wore her authority like a crown, priding herself on an iron grip over her classroom. That doesn't look like algebra to me, she snapped, snatching Ariel's journal right off her desk. The room went still, every student holding their breath as Ms. Rohr flipped through pages filled with sketches, birds, trees, faces, each one alive with detail. This is why your grades are slipping, young lady. Too busy playing artist to focus on what matters. But Ariel's grades? They were stellar, top of the class in nearly every subject. She could have said so, could have stood up and corrected her, but she didn't. She just stared at her desk, willing the moment to pass, her cheeks burning under the weight of everyone's eyes. And these braids, Ms. Rohr went on, her gaze raking over Ariel's hair with a sneer.
So elaborate, so flashy.
Don't you think it's a bit much for school, Ariel? A little too much, like you're trying to stand out. A few students squirmed in their seats, uncomfortable with the edge in her voice. Maya Thompson, Ariel's best friend since their sandbox days, shot her a look from across the room, her eyes brimming with quiet fury. Could Ms. Rohr even sense the tension she was stirring? The morning announcements crackled over the PA system, cutting through the moment like a lifeline. Principal Wexley's dull, droning voice filled the room. Attention, students and faculty. This is a reminder that our strict dress code will be enforced starting today. All students must comply with the appearance standards outlined in the handbook. Thank you for your cooperation.
MS. Her lips twisted into a satisfied smile.
Well, isn't that just perfect timing, she said, tossing Ariel's journal back onto her desk with a careless flick.
Stand up, Ms. Daniels.
Ariel rose slowly, her heart hammering so loud she was sure everyone could hear it. 24 pairs of eyes swiveled to watch her. Front of the class, please, Ms. Rohr ordered, pointing to the whiteboard with a sharp jab of her finger. Ariel's steps felt like they were dragging through mud as she walked forward, her gaze glued to the floor. Did she know what was coming? Class, Ms. Rohr announced, circling Ariel like a hawk eyeing its prey. This is a textbook example of a dress code violation. These braids are excessive, distracting, and completely inappropriate. The handbook is crystal clear. Hair must be neat and conservative. Ms. Rohr, Ariel whispered, her voice so faint it barely reached the front row. I have a medical, speak up. Ms. Rohr cut her off, her tone sharp enough to draw blood. If you've got something to say, let the whole class hear it. Ariel swallowed hard, her throat tight. I have a medical condition, she said, a little louder this time. My mom got permission from the school for my hair. Ms. Rohr's face hardened, her eyes narrowing to slits. A medical condition that requires fancy braids? Oh, that's a new one. How convenient. She spun to face the class, her voice dripping with mockery. See how students will say anything to dodge the rules. No one laughed. The silence was heavy, suffocating. You either take those extensions out right now, or you're going home, Ms. Rohr declared, her words landing like a gavel. Your choice, Ariel. Tears pricked at Ariel's eyes, hot and stinging. Please, I can't. My mom. Your mother isn't here, Ms. Rohr interrupted, her voice cold as steel. And I highly doubt she'd approve of you lying to a teacher. Before Ariel could say another word, Ms. Rohr grabbed her arm, her grip tight enough to leave a mark. Let's go. We're settling this in the nurse's office. As she yanked Ariel toward the door, Maya's hand darted to her pocket, pulling out her phone. With a quick tap, she started recording, capturing the teacher's iron grip and the raw fear etched across Ariel's face. Did Ms. Rohr even notice the tiny act of rebellion happening right under her nose? The hallway seemed to stretch on forever as Ms. Rohr marched Ariel toward the nurse's office, her fingers digging into the girl's arm like claws. Students in other classrooms glanced up as they passed, their curious eyes darting to the scene unfolding outside their windows. Miss Adams. Ms. Rohr barked as they burst into the nurse's office. This student is in violation of the dress code. She claims she has some medical condition, but I'm not buying it. Nurse Adams looked up from her computer, her brow creasing as she saw Ariel's tear-streaked face. What's the problem here? She asked, her voice cautious. Her hair, Ms. Rohr said flatly, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. Ariel found her voice, small but steady. I have alopecia, she said. My mom filed paperwork. Please just check. Nurse Adams started toward her filing cabinet. Let me take a look. No need, Ms. Rohr cut in, her voice smooth and commanding. I checked her file this morning. There's a general medical form, but nothing about hair exemptions. It was a blatant lie, but Ariel was too shaken to call it out. But my mom talked to Principal Wexley, she insisted, her voice trembling. Please call her. Your mother's deployed overseas, isn't she? Ms. Rohr's tone shifted to something falsely sweet, her eyes still icy. I know this must be hard, but rules are rules. We need to remove these extensions for cleanliness and equality. Nurse Adams hesitated, her gaze flickering between Ariel and Ms. Rohr. Shouldn't we call her father first? I have parental permission on file, Ms. Rohr lied again, her confidence unshakable. This is a school policy matter. We're authorized to enforce the dress code. Nurse Adams wavered, clearly uneasy. I suppose if there's permission. There is, Ms. Rohr said firmly. Now, do you have clippers? These extensions need to come off. Ariel's stomach dropped. No, please, she begged, her voice breaking. My hair, you don't understand. But Ms. Rohr was already steering her toward the exam chair, her grip unrelenting. Nurse Adams, still looking conflicted, pulled a set of clippers from a cabinet. This is for your own good, Ariel, Ms. Rohr said as she flicked the clippers on, their angry buzz filling the room like a swarm of insects. Everyone follows the same rules here. With a swift, merciless motion, Ms. Rohr began cutting away Ariel's braids, each snip revealing the patchy, fragile scalp beneath. Tears streamed down Ariel's cheeks as she watched her carefully crafted shield fall to the floor in clumps. How could this be happening? See, that wasn't so bad, Ms. Rohr said, her voice dripping with false cheer. But she didn't stop there. The clippers kept moving, shearing off what little natural hair Ariel had left, leaving her scalp nearly bare. That's enough. Nurse Adams finally said, her voice sharp, but it was too late. The damage was done. Ariel sat frozen in the chair, staring at her reflection in a small mirror on the wall. She didn't recognize the girl looking back, her scalp exposed, her confidence shattered. There, Ms. Rohr said, switching off the clippers with a satisfied click. Now you're in compliance. Ariel couldn't speak. Her body trembled with silent sobs as her hands reached up to touch her bare scalp, the cold air stinging her skin like a slap. I'll give you a few minutes to pull yourself together, Ms. Rohr said, setting the clippers on the counter with a casual air. Then you can go back to class.
She swept out of the room, leaving Ariel alone with Nurse Adams.
I'm so sorry, the nurse whispered, her voice thick with regret. I should've. I didn't think she'd go that far. She fumbled for words, her hands twisting together. Let me call your father. Ariel barely heard her. I want my mom, she whispered, her voice so small it seemed to vanish into the air. I'll call your dad right now, Nurse Adams promised, grabbing the phone and stepping out of the office. Alone, Ariel curled into herself, her reflection taunting her from the mirror. How could she face anyone like this? The door creaked open, and Maya slipped inside, her eyes widening in horror at the sight of her friend. Without a word, she rushed over, yanking off her hoodie and draping it gently over Ariel's head. I saw what happened, Maya said, her voice shaking with rage. I got some of it on video. My sister's gonna help us send it to your mom. That woman can't get away with this, Ariel. She just can't. Ariel didn't respond, but she pulled the hoodie tighter around her face, her eyes blank, her heart numb. That evening, as Maya's video began to spread online, the school issued a curt statement. We are aware of a disciplinary misunderstanding that occurred today. The teacher involved has been suspended for 1 day while we investigate the matter. The privacy of all parties will be respected during this process. A misunderstanding? No mention of the clippers, the forced shaving, or Ariel's medical condition. No acknowledgement of the pain inflicted on a 12-year-old girl by someone entrusted to protect her. Did they really think a single day's suspension would make this right? Across town, Eric Daniels paced the living room, his cell phone pressed to his ear, his voice tight with desperation. The former Army sergeant had been trying to reach his wife for hours, leaving message after message. Naomi, please call me as soon as you get this, he said, his voice cracking. It's Ariel. Something awful happened at school. It's really bad. He hung up, running a hand over his face, exhaustion and fury etched into every line. Did he know then that this was only the beginning? The video, raw and unfiltered, was already making waves, shared from phone to phone, sparking outrage among parents, students, and strangers alike. How could a teacher do this? Why didn't anyone stop her? The school's flimsy response only fanned the flames, and as Naomi Daniels prepared to board a plane home, her heart heavy with a mother's love and a soldier's resolve, one thing was clear: this wasn't just a misunderstanding. This was a battle, and it was far from over. The weight of a classified operation hung heavy on Lieutenant Colonel Naomi Daniels, 3 weeks deep in a mission where communication was a rare luxury, each message a gamble against time and distance.
Can you imagine the isolation?
Back home, Eric, her husband, was left grappling alone, his phone a lifeline to a wife he couldn't reach. Upstairs, their daughter Ariel hadn't uttered a single word since he'd picked her up from school, her silence louder than any scream. She'd handed him Maya's hoodie, her exposed scalp a gut punch that unleashed a storm in Eric's chest, rage, confusion, heartbreak, and a burning need to storm that school and demand answers. How could this happen to his little girl? But Ariel needed him more than his anger needed an outlet. He drove her home, steadying her trembling frame as her legs faltered, and now she sat on her bed motionless, the hoodie pulled tight over her head, staring at a wall that seemed to hold all her pain. Across town, Principal Thomas Wexley's office was a fortress of drawn blinds and hushed urgency, his secretary guarding the door like a sentinel. This is a nightmare, Wexley muttered, yanking at his tie as if it were choking him. At 58, he'd been counting on a quiet glide to retirement. Why now, this catastrophe? What the hell were you thinking, Evelyn? Ms. Rohr sat rigid in a chair, her jaw tight, defiance etched into every line of her face. I was enforcing the dress code, just as you instructed. The girl was defiant, plain and simple. Harold Brennan, the district's attorney, leaned forward, his voice cool and calculated. Let's focus on damage control. The video doesn't show the haircut itself. We can spin this as a miscommunication. Wexley's eyes widened. Miscommunication? She shaved a student's head. Brennan didn't flinch. Partial evidence, he said, tapping his pen. It's her word against the students, and we've got the new dress code policy to stand on. Ms. Rohr nodded sharply. She claimed some medical condition, but I checked, nothing specific about hair exemptions in her file. Wexley's brow furrowed. Was there anything about alopecia? I remember a conversation. Not that I saw, Ms. Rohr cut in, too quick, her eyes darting away. Brennan's pen kept tapping, a steady rhythm to his plan. Here's how we play it. We acknowledge a disciplinary incident, admit proper procedures weren't followed, hence the one-day suspension, but we don't confirm any specifics. If the parents push. Wexley leaned in. Private mediation, Brennan said smoothly. Keep it out of court. Offer counseling, maybe a classroom transfer. Wexley exhaled, nodding. Fine. Draft it. I want this buried by morning. Did they think it would be that easy? In her darkening bedroom, Ariel sat like a statue, the world outside fading to dusk. Her sketchpad lay open, its pages filled with brave, vibrant heroes who conquered every obstacle, but tonight, those drawings felt childish hollow. How could they mean anything now? Her hand traced her scalp, lingering on the uneven patches where Ms. Rohr's clippers had been ruthless, each touch a reminder of her exposure. In her mind, the moment replayed in vivid cruelty. The first braid hitting the floor, Ms. Rohr's mocking glint, the suffocating helplessness as her shield was stripped away. Eric's soft knock broke the silence. Dinner's ready, sweetheart, he called, his voice gentle but heavy with worry. No response. She hadn't spoken since sliding into his car, her silence a wall he couldn't breach. Ariel, he said, easing the door open. You need to eat something. She turned away, pulling the covers over her head, shutting him out. Eric's heart shattered. I'll leave it here, he said, setting a plate on her desk. Just a few bites, okay? I love you, Ari. We're going to fix this. But how do you fix a wound this deep? He closed the door, the question echoing in his mind, each step away from her room heavier than the last. Across town, Maya Thompson sat at her sister Jasmine's kitchen table, her stomach twisting as she watched the video upload. Are you sure about this? Maya asked, her voice small. Ariel's so private, she might hate everyone seeing this. Jasmine, a college sophomore with a fire for justice, looked up from her laptop. This isn't just about Ariel, Maya. This is about every black girl who's been targeted, whose body's been policed. This is about power, who has it, who abuses it. But Ariel, Maya tried again, her heart aching for her friend. She'll thank us one day, Jasmine said, her voice firm. Sometimes you fight injustice by shining a light on it. She hit upload, and the video went live. Done. Now we wait. By morning, it had racked up over 10,000 views, comments pouring in like a tidal wave, outrage, questions, demands for the full story. How could a teacher do this? What happened before the video? This is abuse. Maya texted Ariel, her fingers flying over the screen, but no reply came. Was Ariel even ready for the world to see her pain? At school, Jason Reed, the art teacher with his signature colorful bow ties and a genuine love for his students, caught wind of the incident during his morning prep. Ariel was his star, her sketches bursting with life. How could this happen to her? He stormed to Wexley's office, not bothering with niceties. Is it true? He demanded, his voice shaking. Did Evelyn shave Ariel Danielle's head? Wexley's face was a mask of calm. Jason, you know I can't discuss staff disciplinary matters. This isn't about staff. Reed shot back. This is about a 12-year-old girl with a medical condition, humiliated in our school, a place that's supposed to protect her. We're handling it, Wexley said, waving him off. Handling it. Reed's voice rose, incredulous.
A one day suspension?
That's not handling it, Thomas, that's hiding it. Wexley's eyes narrowed. Careful, Jason. Your contract's up for renewal. I'd hate for your passion to cloud your judgment. Reed's jaw dropped. Are you threatening me? I'm reminding you of your place, Wexley said coldly. Now, I have a district call in 5. Reed left, fury simmering. How could Wexley care more about his image than Ariel? That afternoon, Eric found an unmarked envelope slipped under his front door, the handwriting inside urgent. Check the nurse's files. They know what happened. His hand trembled as he read it again. Someone inside was breaking ranks, someone who knew the truth. Was this the key to justice? That night, Ariel finally collapsed into sleep, but peace eluded her. In her dreams, she stood on the school stage, the spotlight blinding. One by one, her braids fell like autumn leaves, the student body pointing, their laughter twisting into cruel, distorted masks. She tried to run, but her feet were glued to the stage. Ms. Roar loomed, her oversized clippers buzzing, her smile wicked. Ariel woke screaming, sweat-soaked, her heart pounding. Eric rushed in, pulling her into his arms as she sobbed, her first sound in nearly 24 hours. "It's okay, baby," he whispered, rocking her. "Daddy's here. You're safe." But were they? How could safety exist in a world where this could happen? The next morning, Eric called the district board, his voice steady but laced with fury. "I need an emergency meeting," he demanded. The secretary's response was maddeningly calm. "The board will review the incident in 3 weeks at their next meeting." 3 weeks. Eric's grip tightened on the phone. "My daughter was assaulted yesterday." "Sir, we understand, but protocols must be followed. The teacher's been disciplined. I can email you a grievance form." He hung up, seething. They were stalling, betting he'd give up. Did they know who they were underestimating? Online, the video surged, local news picking up the story with vague headlines. "Middle school incident sparks controversy." Comment sections erupted. "Fire that teacher." "We don't know the full story, maybe the kid was trouble." "This is about race, plain and simple." "Why are we policing black girls' bodies?" The debate raged, but for the Daniels, this wasn't a talking point. It was their lives, broken in a single afternoon by a teacher's cruelty. Far away, Naomi finally received Eric's encrypted video, her composure cracking as she watched Ariel being marched down the hall, fear carved into her daughter's face. The message was brief: "Ariel needs you." They shaved her head. All of it. "She hasn't spoken in 2 days. I'm trying, but I don't know what to do."
Naomi flew to her moot, stifling a gasp.
20 years of military training hadn't prepared her for this. An attack on her child, her heart's softest spot. Within minutes, she was in her commander's quarters, requesting emergency leave. Within hours, she was on a transport plane, her face a mask of controlled fury, her mind racing. Who dared touch her daughter? Who exploited their power to humiliate a 12-year-old? They would answer for this. As the plane cut through the sky, Naomi made a silent vow: "This isn't over, Ariel." Not by a long shot. The afternoon sun stretched long shadows across the school parking lot as Naomi pulled into a visitor space, still in her uniform, the weight of 20 hours of travel no match for the adrenaline fueling her. "Remember what we talked about," Eric said, his voice tight. "These people aren't worth your career." Naomi adjusted her cap, her reflection in the rearview mirror resolute, her warm brown eyes now steel. "I know exactly what I'm doing," she said, her calm more terrifying than any outburst. "This isn't about my career. This is about our daughter." She'd spent the flight strategizing. Emotional outbursts didn't win battles. Control and precision did. As she entered the school, her boots struck the tile with purpose, the hallway falling silent. Students pressed against lockers, whispers dying. Teachers peeked out, then stepped back, awed by her presence. Did they know the storm that had just walked through their doors? The sharp creases of Lieutenant Colonel Naomi Daniels's military uniform radiated authority, her expression a silent demand for answers that stopped hearts in their tracks. "Can you feel the weight of her presence?" A young teacher hesitated, her steps faltering as she thought better of approaching, while a janitor offered a subtle nod of solidarity as Naomi passed, her stride unbroken, her purpose clear as crystal. She moved with the unwavering confidence of someone who'd navigated battlefields. Did anyone dare stand in her way? The teacher's lounge door hung half open, a murmur of voices spilling out. Inside, faculty clustered around a coffee pot, among them a thin woman with graying blonde hair pulled into a severe bun, Ms. Evelyn Roar. Naomi pushed the door wide, and the chatter died like a snuffed flame. Ms. Roar turned, her coffee cup frozen mid-air, recognition flashing in her eyes, chased by a flicker Naomi knew from combat: raw fear. Lieutenant Colonel Daniels, Ms. Rohr stammered, her cup trembling, betraying her composure. I didn't know you were back from deployment. Clearly, Naomi said, her voice cold enough to frost the room. She stood in the doorway, her presence swallowing the space. You've met my daughter, haven't you? Rather intimately, I hear. The other teachers shifted, their glances darting, and one by one, they mumbled excuses, slipping past Naomi with eyes glued to the floor until only Ms. Rohr remained exposed. I was just enforcing school policy, Ms. Rohr said, scrambling to regain her footing, her voice thin. If you'd been more present in your daughter's life, don't, Naomi cut her off, the word ablaze. Don't you dare hide behind dress codes or my deployment. We both know what this is. The air crackled, heavy with unspoken history. Could you feel the tension? I don't know what you're implying, Ms. Rohr said, but her voice wavered, her confidence crumbling. 8 years ago, Naomi said, her tone low, lethal. Fort Benning. Ring any bells, Private Rohr? Or did you think I wouldn't remember you? Ms. Rohr's face went ashen, her cup clattering against the counter. You were in my training unit, Naomi pressed on. Discharged after multiple infractions, failing basic qualifications 3 times. Care to explain? That was different, Ms. Rohr whispered, barely audible. You singled me out. You had it in for me from the start. Because you couldn't follow orders, Naomi shot back. And because you filed false reports against your black colleagues. Sound familiar? Ms. Rohr's hands shook as she set her cup down.
You can't prove anything.
Not then, not now. Naomi stepped closer, her eyes boring into her. I don't need to prove it. I lived it. And now my daughter has too. She leaned in, her voice a deadly whisper. This isn't over, Evelyn. Not by a long shot. She turned to leave, then paused, her words slicing through the silence. One more thing, if you ever go near my daughter again, you'll find out why my unit called me the Hammer. Did Ms. Rohr even breathe as Naomi walked away? Memories surged as Naomi strode toward the principal's office. Evelyn Rohr, a thorn in her unit at Fort Benning, undermining black soldiers, claiming they got special treatment, filing baseless complaints when called out. Discharged, she'd vowed revenge, and now here she was, wielding power over children, targeting Ariel with the same venom. Naomi's blood boiled, but her face remained a mask of control as she approached Principal Wexley's office. His secretary tried to intervene. Do you have an appointment? Naomi didn't slow. He'll see me now. She pushed the door open without knocking, and Wexley looked up, irritation flashing before recognition hit. Mrs. Daniels, he said, standing hastily. We weren't expecting. Lieutenant Colonel Daniels, she corrected, her voice steel. You should have expected me the second your teacher assaulted my daughter. Wexley gestured to a chair. Please sit. I know you're upset. I'm not upset, Mr. Wexley, Naomi said, remaining standing, her posture unyielding.
I'm methodical.
There's a difference. She placed a military folder on his desk, its label stark, Incident Report, Daniels, A. Assault and Battery, Educational Negligence, Civil Rights Violation. Wexley's eyes flicked to it. What's this? This, Naomi said, her tone icy, is what handling a situation looks like. My team's compiled witness statements, medical records of Ariel's alopecia, and every permission form we filed with your office last year. Care to explain why those were ignored? Wexley's confidence wavered, his fingers twitching. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Ms. Rohr's been disciplined. A 1-day suspension? Naomi's voice cut like a whip. That's not discipline, it's a vacation. She tapped the folder. You'll also find evidence of Ms. Rohr's history of racially motivated incidents. This isn't her first time targeting a black child, but it's her boldest. How does that sit with you?
Wexley's face darkened.
These are serious allegations. They're documented facts, Naomi said, unflinching. And they're headed to the district board, the state education department, and if needed, the media. Wexley leaned back, incredulous. You're threatening the school's reputation over one incident? You threatened my daughter's dignity, her mental health, her right to an education free from discrimination, Naomi replied, her voice even but searing. I'd say we're not even close to even. Could he feel the ground shifting beneath him? Later that afternoon, Ms. Rohr sat in a local news station's office, her collar damp with nervous sweat as a producer clipped a microphone to her blouse. "Live in 3 minutes," the producer said. "Just tell your side, like we practiced." Ms. Rohr nodded, rehearsing her sympathetic frown in the monitor. When the red light blinked on, she transformed, her face a portrait of wounded professionalism. "Thank you for having me," she said to the anchor, her voice soft.
The truth matters.
"What is the truth, Ms. Rohr?" the anchor asked. "I was doing my job," she said, her voice quivering for effect. The school's strict dress code was in place, and we're expected to enforce it. This student was warned multiple times about her hair. "The family says she has a medical condition," the anchor noted. "Nothing in her file mentioned hair exemptions," Ms. Rohr lied smoothly. "Frankly, this is being blown out of proportion because her mother's in the military. She's playing hero, threatening the school, but where was she when her daughter needed to learn about rules?" The anchor's eyebrows shot up at the jab, but Ms. Rohr pressed on. "I've given 20 years to teaching, and now my reputation's being torn apart because one parent thinks her child's above the rules." Did she think her performance would sway the public? Across town, Eric Daniels waited for nightfall, the anonymous note about the nurse's files burning a hole in his mind. Who sent it? What would he uncover? At the school side entrance, the janitor who'd nodded to Naomi stood ready, keys glinting. "Frank Williams," he said, voice low. "My daughter had Ms. Rohr 3 years ago. Believe me, I know what she's capable of." Eric shook his hand, gratitude swelling. "Thank you. I don't want you in trouble." Frank shrugged. "Some things are bigger than a job. Nurse's office is down the hall, 3rd door on the left. Files are in the medical alerts cabinet." Eric moved through the dark hallways, his flashlight's beam cutting the shadows. The nurse's office was unlocked, as promised. He rifled through the cabinet, heart pounding, until he found it, a complaint form Ariel had filed 2 weeks earlier, detailing Ms. Rohr's relentless comments about her hair, calling it distracting, unprofessional. It was signed, dated, but never processed, with a scrawled note in red ink, "No action required." Eric's hands shook as he snapped photos with his phone. They knew. Ariel had begged for help, and they'd ignored her. While Eric gathered evidence, Naomi sat at her home office desk, her military precision fueling a barrage of formal complaints, to the State Board of Education, the Office for Civil Rights, the ACLU, the National Association of School Principals. Each was a masterpiece of detail, her resolve etched into every word. Past midnight, she checked on Ariel, who slept fitfully, clutching her sketchbook like a shield. In the kitchen, Eric showed her the photos. "They knew, Naomi," he said, his voice cracking with rage. "Our baby tried to warn them, and they did nothing." Naomi studied the form, her jaw tightening. "Wexley's signature is on this. He personally buried it." She met Eric's eyes. "They're going to regret that." Could the school even fathom the storm coming? The next morning, Principal Wexley summoned Jason Reed, Ariel's beloved art teacher, to his office, the district's lawyer looming nearby. "Jason, you're on administrative leave, effective immediately," Wexley said, his tone flat. Reed's jaw dropped. "What? On what grounds?" "Disrupting the educational environment," Wexley replied. "Parents say you've been discussing the Daniel situation in class." "That's a lie." Reed protested. "Students asked questions. I just told them to be kind to their classmates." The lawyer cut in. "Your contract forbids controversial topics in the classroom. This is paid leave, but turn in your keys and clear your desk by noon." Reed stood, fury radiating. "You know what happened to Ariel was wrong. Everyone in this school knows it. And this is your response, silencing anyone who cares." Wexley waved him off. "That's all, Mr. Reed." Did they think they could bury the truth so easily? As news of Reed's leave spread, Naomi prepared her boldest move. In her full uniform, medals gleaming under studio lights, she faced a national morning news anchor. "Lieutenant Colonel Daniels, thank you for joining us," the anchor began. "What happened to your daughter?" Naomi looked into the camera, her voice steady but fierce. "My daughter Ariel has alopecia, causing hair loss. She wears extensions to protect her scalp and her privacy. Last week, a teacher forcibly shaved her head, claiming a dress code violation. The school called it a miscommunication, the anchor said. No miscommunication, Naomi replied, her words like steel. It was deliberate cruelty and a cover-up. We filed medical exemptions. Ariel reported the teacher's harassment 2 weeks prior. The school ignored every red flag. What do you hope to achieve? The anchor asked. Naomi leaned forward, her gaze unyielding. Accountability, justice for Ariel, and change so no child endures this again. I've served this country for 20 years, defending dignity and equality. If the system won't protect my daughter, I'll dismantle it and rebuild it better. Her words landed like a thunderclap, and by nightfall, the interview had exploded, viewed over 2 million times. Her final statement a rallying cry, if the system won't protect my daughter, I will dismantle it myself. Social media erupted, parents nationwide echoing her call. The Daniels phone rang non-stop, news outlets, parents with similar stories, civil rights groups offering support. Eric logged each call, while Naomi honed their legal strategy. But above all, they focused on Ariel, who remained withdrawn, her vibrant sketches now dark, chaotic swirls of pain. Yet she clung to her art, her pencil moving in silent defiance. Was it her way of fighting back? The morning air outside Lakeside Middle School crackled with righteous fury as a small but fierce group of protesters gathered, their numbers swelling with every passing hour. Parents, former students, and community members stood shoulder to shoulder, their signs blazing with demands, justice for Ariel. Protect our children. Can you feel the ground trembling under their resolve? Among them stood Maya, her heart heavy for her friend, flanked by her mother and sister. Reporters swarmed, microphones thrust forward, but Maya held firm. I'm just here for my friend, she said, her voice soft but unwavering. Did they understand the depth of her loyalty? Her sister Jasmine, though, was a firebrand, her words slicing through the crowd. This isn't just one incident, she told a local reporter, her eyes blazing. Ms. Roar's been targeting students of color for years, ask any alum. Her challenge lit a fuse, and social media erupted with stories from former students, each one a gut punch. She made me scrub my face in front of everyone because my makeup was too ethnic. She said my natural hair would ruin my career. She refused to learn my name, called me Amy instead of Amara all year. The accounts piled up, a tidal wave of truth that no one could dismiss as a misunderstanding. Inside the school, the hallways buzzed with tension. Students whispered about Ariel, about Ms. Roar, about the growing crowd outside. Teachers fumbled through lessons, every word a potential landmine in the escalating storm. Could they feel the walls closing in? That evening, Naomi's phone pinged with an email that stopped her cold. It was from Alex Baker, the school's IT technician. Mrs. Daniels, it read, I've been following what happened to your daughter. There's something you need to know. The full security video from the nurse's office exists, or it did. Principal Wexley ordered me to delete it the morning after the incident. I said it was gone, but I might recover it from our backup system. If you're interested, meet me off school grounds. Naomi's pulse raced. Could this be the key to justice? She forwarded the email to their lawyer and replied with a meeting spot, her mind racing with hope. Unedited footage could show every second of Ariel's ordeal. But Alex never showed. 2 days passed, silence stretching like a taut wire. Naomi called the number he'd given, only to hit voicemail. She was ready to file a missing person report when her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Tell your hacker to stop digging, or we'll bury him. A chill slithered down her spine. Who was threatening Alex? She forwarded the message to her military cybercrime contacts and called Eric, her voice tight. They're threatening Alex, she said. Whoever they are. Eric's voice wavered. The school wouldn't go that far, would they? Maybe not Wexley, Naomi said, her mind racing. But someone's pulling strings. This is bigger than one teacher or one principal. Did they realize they just poked a lioness? While Naomi hunted for answers and Alex's whereabouts, Ariel waged her own quiet battle at home. She hadn't set foot in school, couldn't face those hallways, those stairs that echoed with her humiliation. But her paintbrush had stirred to life again. Her first canvases were raw, swirls of black and gray, slashed with jagged red, screaming her pain. On the 4th day, though, a shift emerged. She began a new painting, a barren tree, its branches reaching like desperate arms. Fallen leaves in brown and gold littered the ground, but tucked in the corner, almost hidden, a tiny green sprout pushed through the soil. Was this Ariel's heart reaching for hope? Naomi stood in Ariel's doorway, tears streaming silently as she saw the painting. "It's beautiful, baby," she whispered, her voice thick. Ariel didn't speak, but her eyes met her mother's, brief, piercing, a connection that spoke louder than words. Could Naomi's heart hold any more love? As the Daniels family leaned into healing, the media split into predictable trenches. Conservative outlets sneered, "Military mom uses Pentagon muscle to bully teacher." School rules or PC overreach. Lieutenant Colonel oversteps. Should soldiers meddle in schools? Naomi didn't flinch. She called a press conference on their front lawn, dressed in civilian clothes, a deliberate choice, her posture as commanding as ever. Microphones crowded before her, but her voice was steady, unshakable. "I've heard I'm using my military rank to intimidate the school," she began. "Let's be clear, I'm not Lieutenant Colonel Daniels today. I'm Ariel's mom." She laid out the evidence with surgical precision, medical exemptions, Ariel's ignored complaint, witness statements, the school's evasive statements. "This isn't military strategy," she said, her eyes fierce. "This is what any parent would do for their child. My training just makes me thorough. If that scares some people, maybe they should ask why." She turned to the cameras, speaking to families everywhere. "If your child's been targeted like this, don't stay silent. Reach out. Our voices together are unstoppable." Her words were a beacon, controlled yet blazing with purpose. Could anyone doubt her resolve? The next day, Superintendent Richard Palmer held a press conference at district headquarters, flanked by the school board president and two stone-faced lawyers. He announced a special reform task force to review dress codes and discipline, his voice polished but hollow. "We take these allegations seriously," he said, never once saying Ariel's name. He unveiled immediate reforms, sensitivity training, a review of past dress code violations, but when pressed about the shaving incident, he dodged. Privacy laws prevent comment on ongoing investigations or student matters. Naomi, watching from home, scoffed. "Optics, not justice," she muttered to Eric. "They're banking on the public losing interest." Eric's voice was heavy. "Maybe we should think about other options. Private school? A fresh start for Ariel." Naomi's eyes widened. "Run? You want to run?" "I want our daughter back." Eric snapped, his voice breaking. "The girl who laughed, who talked, who didn't jump at shadows. And what about the next girl?" Naomi shot back. "The next Kid Roar or Wexley targets. If we leave, how many more suffer?" Eric's face tightened. "That's not fair. Ariel's our priority, not some future victim." "They're not some victims." Naomi insisted. "They're real, waiting for someone to say enough." Their argument hung, raw and unresolved, until Naomi's phone buzzed. Maya's message, "Found something. Coming over." 20 minutes later, Maya sat at their kitchen table, her phone linked to their laptop, a screenshot glowing on the screen, a group text between Ms. Rohr and another teacher, dated the morning of the incident. "I don't know if it helps," Maya said, her voice shaky, "but my friend's sister teaches at Lakeside. She was in this chat with Ms. Rohr. They kicked her out when they learned we're friends, but she saved this." Naomi and Eric read, hearts pounding, "Ms. Rohr, that Daniels girl's testing me again, drawing instead of notes. Unknown teacher, the quiet one with braids? She's a top student. Ms. Rohr, don't be fooled. She's been mouthing off for weeks. Unknown teacher, let it go. Her mom's deployed, dad's alone. Ms. Rohr, no, I'm about to teach this brat a lesson she'll never forget." The timestamp was 30 minutes before Ms. Rohr confronted Ariel. "Premeditation," Naomi whispered, her legal mind clicking. "She planned it. Can we use this in court?" Eric asked, hope flaring. "Absolutely," Naomi said. "Maya, is your friend's sister ready to testify?" Maya nodded. "She feels awful. Says she should have reported Rohr years ago." That night, after Maya left and Eric dozed on the couch, drained from weeks of strain, Naomi checked on Ariel. To her surprise, Ariel was awake, sitting up with her sketchbook. "Can't sleep?" Naomi asked, easing onto the bed. Ariel shook her head, silent, but turned her sketchbook toward her mother. Two figures stood together, one tall in a uniform, one small with a bald head, both smiling. Naomi's throat closed with emotion. "That's beautiful, sweetheart," she choked out. "Is that us?" Ariel nodded, then spoke, 5 whispered words that shattered Naomi's heart and steeled her resolve. "Don't let them win, Mom." Naomi pulled her daughter close, tears falling. "I won't, baby," she vowed. "I won't." The law office of Grace Yamada gleamed on the 15th floor of a downtown high-rise, its elegance understated, bamboo plants in corners, walls lined with black and white photos of civil rights triumphs. Naomi sat beside Eric on a leather sofa, her posture ramrod straight despite her civilian attire. Across from them, Grace Yamada reviewed the evidence spread on her glass coffee table: medical records, school policies, witness statements, and Ms. Rohr's damning texts. Could this be the arsenal to bring justice? The air in Grace Yamada's law office was thick with purpose, the sleek 15th floor space a quiet testament to her legacy. At 42, Grace was a titan among civil rights attorneys, her roots as the daughter of Japanese-American internment camp survivors fueling a career that toppled institutional giants, school districts, police departments, government agencies. Could anyone doubt her ferocity? "You've done remarkable work gathering evidence," she said, her eyes lifting from the papers strewn across her glass coffee table. "Most clients come with rage and nothing else. You've handed me a case." Naomi met her gaze, unflinching. "Military training. Document everything." Grace nodded, leaning forward, her voice steady but grave. "Let's be clear about the fight ahead. School districts have deep pockets and deeper connections. They'll drown this in delays and technicalities. Are you ready for a long, brutal battle?" Eric's jaw tightened, his voice resolute. "We'll do whatever it takes." Grace stacked the papers with precision. "Good. I'm not just filing a complaint, I'm launching a multi-million-dollar lawsuit against the district, Principal Wexley, and Ms. Rohr personally. Assault, negligence, intentional infliction of emotional distress, civil rights violations, they're all in play." She paused, her gaze piercing. "This will get ugly. They'll smear your character, your parenting, even your service, Naomi. Can you handle that?" Naomi's eyes were steel. "Let them try." Did they know the fire they'd ignited? That same morning across town, Ms. Rohr's quiet suburban home felt like a fortress under siege when a sharp knock rattled her door. A man stood on her porch, his expensive suit crisp, silver hair gleaming, a leather briefcase in hand. His smile was too smooth, too practiced. "Ms. Rohr, I'm Lawrence Whitfield," he said, his voice honeyed. "I'm here to discuss your legal options." Evelyn Rohr peered through the cracked door, suspicion etched into her face. "I can't afford a private attorney." "No need," Whitfield replied, his tone reassuring. "My services are already covered. May I come in?" Inside, he laid out his pitch, his business card gleaming on her coffee table. "I'm with one of the city's top firms. A concerned party has hired us to ensure you get the best defense." Rohr's eyes narrowed. "Who's this concerned party?" Whitfield's smile widened, evasive. "Let's just say some folks see the bigger picture here: traditional values, educational authority under attack. They know you were just doing your job." Rohr's shoulders eased, a flicker of hope in her eyes. "So they believe me?" "Absolutely," Whitfield said, his voice a bomb. "And we'll make sure the world sees it too." What Rohr couldn't know, was that Whitfield's firm was bankrolled by a foundation tied to 3 school board members, the same ones who'd funneled money into a staff protection fund to bury scandals like hers for years. Did she sense the strings being pulled? By week's end, Grace Yamada filed the lawsuit, and the court fast-tracked an emergency hearing, the gravity of a minor's assault undeniable. The courthouse steps swarmed with reporters and protesters, their signs a chorus of outrage: "Justice for Ariel." And a smaller defiant cluster defending teachers' rights. Inside, the courtroom buzzed, packed to the brim. Naomi arrived in her dress uniform, medals glinting under harsh lights, her presence a silent command. Ms. Rohr sat beside Whitfield, her navy dress a calculated plea for sympathy, while Wexley and the district's legal team kept their distance, their table a fortress of separation from Rohr's actions. Judge Eleanor Barnes, a no-nonsense woman in her 60s, took the bench, her voice cutting through the hum. "This courtroom is not a media circus," she declared. We proceed with dignity and respect. She nodded to Grace. Your opening statement, counselor. Grace stepped forward, her voice clear and fierce. Your Honor, this case is about power abused in its rawest form. A teacher, entrusted to nurture children, physically assaulted 12-year-old Ariel Daniels, forcibly shaving her head despite knowing her alopecia made her hair a shield for both body and soul. She laid out the school's failures, ignoring medical forms, dismissing Ariel's complaint, hiding evidence, silencing dissenters. The defense countered weakly. Wexley's attorney distanced his client. Principal Wexley oversees 800 students and trusts his staff to handle discipline. Whitfield spun Roar's tale. My client enforced clear policy, unaware of any exemption due to poor communication, not malice. Grace's eyes gleamed. She'd anticipated every word and was ready to tear their arguments apart. Could they feel her closing in? She called Nurse Patricia Adams first. Ms. Adams, Grace began, what happened when Ms. Roar brought Ariel to your office? The nurse's hands twisted, her voice small with shame. She said Ariel's hair broke the dress code. When Ariel mentioned her condition, Ms. Roar claimed she'd checked the file, no exemption. Did you verify that? Grace pressed. No, Adams admitted, tears brimming. I should have, but Ms. Roar said she had parental permission. Did she show written permission? No. Did she call Ariel's parents? No. Yet you gave her the clippers to shave Ariel's head? Adams's voice broke. Yes. It's my greatest regret. Whitfield tried to shift blame during cross-examination. Isn't it your job to know exemptions, not Ms. Roar's? Objection. Grace snapped. Counsel's deflecting. Sustained, Judge Barnes ruled. Focus on your client, Mr. Whitfield. Grace pressed on, unraveling the defense with emails showing Wexley was alerted within minutes of the incident, advising Roar to handle it quietly, avoid documentation. Did they think they could hide forever? Then came the moment that changed everything. Alex Baker, the missing IT technician, stepped through a side door, escorted by a court officer, his face pale but resolute. Naomi's heart leaped. Where had he been? Mr. Baker, Grace began, tell us about the security footage from the incident. Alex's voice was steady. The school's cameras cover every area, including the nurse's office. Footage saves for 30 days. What happened to the video of Ariel's assault? Wexley ordered me to delete it, Alex said. He called it a privacy issue, but we always preserve incident footage. Did you delete it? I said I did, Alex replied. But I backed it up first. It didn't feel right. Grace turned to the bench. Your Honor, we submit this footage as evidence. The courtroom screens flickered to life, grainy but undeniable, Ariel in the nurse's chair, tears streaming, mouth moving in silent pleas as Roar wielded the clippers with cold precision. A gasp rippled through the room, a juror wiping tears. Could anyone unsee that pain? During the lunch recess, Whitfield pulled Roar into a private room, his voice sharp. This is falling apart. That video's a disaster. Roar's face twisted. You said you had this. You promised they couldn't touch me. Whitfield's eyes narrowed. You didn't mention video or your history with the mother. He checked his watch. New plan, look remorseful. Say you were stressed, made a bad call. Roar bristled. I did nothing wrong. That girl provoked me with her attitude, those ridiculous braids. Whitfield stared, his voice cold. Keep that up, and you'll lose everything, your job, your license, maybe your freedom if this goes criminal. But Roar's arrogance, fed by years of unchecked cruelties, held firm. Did she believe she was untouchable? The afternoon brought the hardest moment. Ariel was called to testify, and Judge Barnes, aware of the trauma, set up a screen to shield her from Roar's gaze, a counselor by her side. Ariel entered, a colorful head wrap framing her solemn face, her posture steady despite her fear. Her voice was soft but clear as she took the oath. Ariel, Grace said gently, what happened in your classroom that day? Ariel breathed deep. I was drawing in my journal after finishing math. Ms. Roar got mad, said my hair broke the rules. Her voice grew stronger. I told her about my alopecia, that my mom filed papers. She wouldn't listen. What happened in the nurse's office? Grace asked. She told the nurse she had permission to cut my hair. She didn't. Then she got the clippers. I begged her to stop, to call my dad, but she kept going. She looked happy. The courtroom was a tomb, silent as Ariel recounted the aftermath. Stares, whispers, nightmares, days of silence that swallowed her voice. Could anyone hear her pain and not ache? The courtroom air was heavy with the weight of Ariel's words, her soft voice cutting through the silence like a blade. Why didn't you speak? Grace Yamada asked, her tone gentle but piercing. Because no one was listening anyway, Ariel replied, her simple truth a thunderclap that echoed in every heart. Can you feel the raw honesty of that moment? The court reporter's pen paused, tears streaking her face as Ariel stepped down, her colorful head wrap a quiet defiance. Even Judge Eleanor Barnes, a pillar of stoicism, seemed shaken, her voice tight as she called a 15-minute recess. Was the courtroom ever the same after Ariel's testimony? When proceedings resumed, Ms. Rohr took the stand, her face schooled into a mask of regret, clearly coached by Lawrence Whitfield to play the part of a remorseful educator. But under Grace's relentless cross-examination, that facade crumbled like dry clay. Ms. Rohr, Grace pressed, her voice sharp, did you have any personal history with Lieutenant Colonel Daniels before this incident? Objection. Whitfield shot up. Irrelevant. Grace didn't flinch. Your Honor, we have evidence Ms. Rohr's action stemmed from a vendetta against Ariel's mother. It goes straight to intent. Judge Barnes's eyes narrowed. I'll allow it. Answer the question. Rohr's face flushed, her composure fraying. We may have crossed paths, she muttered, her voice barely audible. Grace pounced. Isn't it true Lieutenant Colonel Daniels was your superior officer during your brief military stint, and you were discharged for failing basic requirements? Rohr's eyes flashed with venom. She had it in for me. Just like all of them, entitled parents and kids weaponizing identity for special treatment. Rules are rules. The courtroom froze, her outburst a self-inflicted wound. Whitfield's eyes shut briefly, the damage clear. Grace let the silence linger, then delivered her final blow. Ms. Rohr, did you target Ariel Daniels because of who her mother is? Rohr's silence screamed louder than words. Could anyone doubt her guilt? The day's final shock came with an unexpected witness. Colonel James Stratton, Naomi's former commanding officer, his silver hair gleaming under the courtroom lights. He took the stand with military precision, his 30 years of service and commendations lending weight to every word. Colonel Stratton, Grace began, did you observe Ms. Rohr during her military training? I did, he said, his voice firm. She was in Lieutenant Colonel Daniels's unit 8 years ago. Your assessment of her performance? Below standard in every way, he said flatly. Worse, her attitude toward colleagues, especially those of color, was troubling. She filed baseless complaints alleging favoritism, all investigated and dismissed. Did she mention Lieutenant Colonel Daniels specifically? Yes. After her discharge, she told peers people like Daniels would get what's coming. We noted it in her exit report, but lacked grounds for more. The testimony landed like a grenade, reframing Rohr's actions as a calculated act of revenge, a teacher wielding power over a child to settle an old score. Did the jury see the truth unfolding? As the day ended, the jury's faces told the story. Some couldn't meet Rohr's gaze, others looked to Ariel with quiet sympathy. That evening, a leaked snippet of Rohr's deposition hit the media like wildfire. They should be grateful I didn't shave the whole school. Outrage erupted online. Hashtags like #JusticeForAriel trending as calls to ban Rohr from teaching flooded the district's lines. Principal Wexley, sensing the tide turning, quietly contacted the district's lawyers, probing a separate settlement to save his career. Was he ready to abandon Rohr to save himself? Malik Reed, a journalist with 20 years of grit, had seen it all: school board dramas, budget fights, teacher strikes, but the Daniels case gripped him like nothing else. Why was a top-tier firm like Whitfield's defending a public school teacher? Why was the school board so hell-bent on shielding her? He dug deep, filing public records requests, tapping sources, tracing money trails. 3 weeks in, an anonymous email arrived, signed Concerned Citizen, with encrypted files that cracked the case wide open. Financial records revealing a professional legal support fund created by board members James Patterson, Valerie Simmons, and Robert Walsh. Over a decade, It had bankrolled defenses for 8 staff accused of misconduct against minority students, all hushed with NDAs. Roar's legal fees were its latest payout. Malik's exposé screamed from Sunday's front page, "School board secrets, the hidden fund protecting problem teachers." By Monday, it was national news, sparking investigations into similar schemes nationwide. Could this be the end of the board's reign? What began as one girl's trauma was now exposing a rotten system, shielding abusers with taxpayer dollars. As outrage grew, other victims stepped forward. Jackson Reynolds, a biracial 9th grader expelled for his distracting hairstyle. Emma Sanchez, a disabled student humiliated by a teacher defended by the same fund. Naomi saw the power in their stories and rallied the families, forming a network for legal aid, resources, and healing. One lawsuit was becoming a movement. Could it change everything? Mr. Reed, reinstated after public outcry, returned to Lakeside to find his classroom gone, banished to a cramped admin office for curriculum development. He refused to be silenced. At lunch, he invited reporters to the sidewalk, public ground where the school couldn't touch him, and bared his soul. "I failed Ariel Daniels," he said, voice breaking. "I saw the signs, knew something was wrong, but I was scared of losing my job, of rocking the boat. That regret will haunt me forever." He steadied himself. "But I won't fail her again, or any student." Beside him stood Eric, Naomi, and Ariel, their unity a powerful image that spread like wildfire online. Did it inspire you too? That afternoon, Superintendent Palmer called Naomi directly, his voice dripping with false warmth. "Lieutenant Colonel Daniels, the district offers a $5 million settlement, with Ms. Roar admitting fault, plus an NDA, standard procedure." Naomi's laugh was icy. "You still don't get it, do you? This isn't about money." $7 million then, Palmer pressed, and a college fund for Ariel. "We need this settled quietly." "You're not buying silence," Naomi snapped. "You're buying my fury, and you can't afford it." She hung up, her resolve unshaken. Was Palmer blind to the storm he faced? While the legal fight raged, Ariel carved her own path to healing. Her art, once a chaotic cry of pain, now wove stories of resilience. Danielle Foster, a local gallery owner moved by Mr. Reed's press conference, reached out. Would Ariel share her work? The show could be anonymous to protect her. Ariel agreed, and Stripped debuted with 15 paintings, a chronological journey from trauma to rebirth. The centerpiece, a bald black girl amid burning desks, her gaze not angry but resolute, stole breaths. By Saturday, every piece sold. By Sunday, photos of Ariel's art went viral, touching hearts worldwide. Orders for prints poured in, with messages of support from strangers. For the first time, Ariel felt pride, her pain alchemized into something that helped others speak their truths. Wasn't that a kind of victory? As support for the Daniels swelled, the opposition grew desperate. One morning, Naomi found an envelope in their mailbox, a single typed sheet inside, "Back off or you'll regret the bench." Eric's face paled. "This is a threat, we need the police." Naomi studied the words, her mind racing. Regret the bench. That's too specific for a random threat. It's a clue, maybe the school board, maybe the courts. We're missing something. Her instincts proved right when Alex, the IT technician, resurfaced, meeting them at a coffee shop far from Lakeside. "I hacked the boardroom feed," he confessed, voice low. "Not exactly legal, but after their threats, I figured fair's fair." He showed footage from an emergency board meeting, the 3 implicated members, Patterson, Simmons, Walsh, lingering after others left, unaware the camera rolled. "They're mocking you," Alex said, turning up the volume. Patterson's voice sneered, "How long will the Daniels woman last? A week? 2? She'll fold after the settlement." Simmons chimed in, "Military types respect the chain of command. The superintendent will shut her down." Walsh laughed, "If not, there's the bench option. Judge Ford owes me for that lake house zoning." The words were a bombshell, proof the board planned to sway the judge. Naomi sent the footage to Grace and Malik, along with the note. The next day, Malik's follow-up hit, "Board corruption exposed. Secret recording reveals plan to influence judge." He shielded Alex's identity, but the conspiracy was laid bare. Could the board survive the fallout? The fallout from Malik Reed's exposé was like a wildfire, scorching the foundations of Lakeside School District's corrupt empire. Protesters swarmed the district offices, their voices a thunderous demand for justice, signs waving like battle flags, "Resign now. No more cover UPS." Can you feel their righteous anger? Within 48 hours, the pressure crushed James Patterson, Valerie Simmons, and Robert Walsh, who slunk away with flimsy excuses of personal reasons and health concerns. Their resignations left gaping holes in the school board, sparking special elections that parents from Naomi's advocacy group were already gearing up to dominate. Was this the dawn of real change? As the system that propped up Ms. Rohr collapsed, her dark past clawed its way into the light. A live stream by Tasha Williams, a young woman with unyielding courage, exploded online overnight. "I was 14, she said, her voice steady despite the pain etched in her eyes. "Ms. Rohr, my English teacher, said my braids were unprofessional, that they'd ruin my future. When I stood up to her, she grabbed scissors and cut one braid off in front of the whole class." Tasha had reported it, but her cries were dismissed as exaggerated. Now, with Ariel's case blazing in the headlines, she found her voice again. "I thought I was alone," she said, tears brimming. "Ariel, you're not alone either." Her words unleashed a flood of stories from other former students, some about verbal cruelty, others about cultural shaming, all painting Rohr as a predator targeting students of color. The truth was undeniable. Rohr wasn't a teacher who made one mistake. She was a serial abuser finally exposed. Could her legacy ever recover? Amid the chaos, Ariel wrestled with ghosts too heavy to bear, her heart still tethered to the trauma of Lakeside's hallways. Returning to school felt impossible. How could she face those stares, those whispers? But one quiet afternoon, she turned to her parents, her voice small but resolute. "Can I visit Mr. Reed's classroom?" Eric's eyes softened, concern etched deep. "Are you sure, sweetheart?" Ariel nodded, a flicker of determination in her gaze. "I need to thank him." They arranged the visit for after hours, when the school would be a near-empty shell. As they walked the corridors, Ariel's grip on Naomi's hand tightened, each step a battle against memory, but she pressed on, her courage a quiet roar. Mr. Reed waited not in his reassigned admin office but in his old art room, reclaimed for this moment. "Ariel," he greeted, his voice warm, his colorful bow tie a beacon of familiarity. "I've got something to show you." He led her to the back wall, now a shrine to her resilience. Where student art once hung haphazardly, prints of Ariel's stripped paintings glowed in a perfect grid, their raw beauty commanding the space. At the center, a simple plaque read, "Art speaks when words fail. Listen." Ariel's breath caught, emotions crashing over her, grief, pride, hope. Then, for the first time since that horrific day in the nurse's office, a smile broke through, pure and radiant, touching her eyes and banishing the shadows. It wasn't full healing, oh that road was long, but it was a spark, a glimpse of the Ariel who danced before trauma stole her light. Could this be the start of her comeback? Rain drummed against the courthouse windows, casting a restless shimmer across the worn benches. After 6 grueling weeks of testimony, evidence, and legal sparring, the trial neared its end, the courtroom packed with journalists and spectators who'd lined up at dawn for the final act. Ariel sat between her parents, her head adorned with a vibrant wrap in blues and golds, colors of strength, resilience, her new signature style born from weeks of reclaiming her identity after the stripped exhibition. Grace Yamada rose for her closing argument, her dark suit sharp, her presence commanding. She faced the jury, locking eyes with each member, her voice a blend of steel and sorrow. When Ariel Daniels walked into Lakeside Middle School on February 15th, she was a child trusting the adults meant to protect her, she began. By lunchtime, she was assaulted, humiliated, her life forever scarred by one of those adults. She paced, letting her words sink in. The defense wants you to obsess over policies, procedures, chains of command. They've blamed the nurse, the system, anyone but Ms. Rohr and Principal Wexley. They've droned on about dress codes, authority, rules. Grace paused, her gaze flicking to Ariel, then back to the jury. But this case isn't about rules, it's about a grown woman abusing her power to crush a 12-year-old spirit. Her voice sharpened. Ms. Rohr didn't just enforce a policy, she exacted revenge on the daughter of a woman she despised. She targeted a child with alopecia, knowing her hair was her shield. Grace stepped closer to the jury. We've laid it bare, medical forms Rohr ignored, Ariel's complaint Wexley buried, texts proving premeditation, security footage of the assault, witnesses confirming a pattern of cruelty. Her tone softened, eyes glistening. Most of all, you heard Ariel, her courage as she relived her darkest day, her voice lost for days, her art her only refuge, her nightmares and anxiety still haunting her. She let silence linger, then held up a print of Ariel's painting, the bald girl amid burning desks. Ariel called this what remains. It shows what was stolen, but also what endures, her dignity, her creativity, her voice. Today, I beg you to give her justice. She set the print down, her voice firm. Ask yourselves, in a society that vows to protect its children, what will your verdict say to every kid trusting their school to keep them safe? Grace sat, Naomi squeezing her hand, a rare crack in her stoic armor. Could the jury resist that call? Lawrence Whitfield stood, his polished suit a stark contrast to Roar's unraveling demeanor. Ladies and gentlemen, he began, hands clasped, this case is about trust in our educators to maintain order in chaotic schools. His voice dripped with false humility. Was Ms. Roar perfect? No. She admits her actions were heavy-handed. But teachers face underfunded, overcrowded classrooms where rules are mocked daily. Jurors shifted, their faces skeptical. Did they buy his spin? The plaintiffs paint a tale of cruelty, but facts matter. Ms. Roar believed she had authorization, unaware of any exemption. The district's attorney echoed, distancing Wexley. The principal trusted his staff. Their words felt hollow, a desperate grasp at deflection. Judge Barnes addressed the jury, her voice steady. You've heard all evidence. Now deliberate carefully on each count. As the jury filed out, Naomi gripped Eric's and Ariel's hands, a chain of unbreakable love. What now? Ariel whispered, her voice a rare gift. We wait, Eric murmured, and face it together. The wait was torture, hours dragging as the family stayed glued to the courtroom, refusing to leave. Grace prepped for all outcomes, her faith in their case unwavering. Outside, rain cloaked the city, protesters standing firm under soggy umbrellas, their signs drooping but spirits fierce. News vans lined the street, reporters braving the downpour for live updates. Was the world holding its breath? At 4 o'clock, the bailiff entered with a note. Judge Barnes read it, her face unreadable, then announced, the jury has a verdict. The room buzzed as the jurors returned, their solemn faces hiding their decision. Have you reached a verdict? Barnes asked the forewoman, a middle-aged black woman with silver-streaked hair. We have, Your Honor, she said, passing the document via the bailiff. Barnes reviewed it, then returned it. In Daniels v. Lakeside School District, Evelyn Roar and Thomas Wexley, on the count of assault and battery against Ariel Daniels, how do you find? The forewoman stood tall. We find Evelyn Roar liable. Naomi's grip on Ariel's hand tightened, her heart pounding. On negligence against Lakeside School District and Thomas Wexley, how do you find? Both liable. On intentional infliction of emotional distress against all defendants, how do you find? All liable. On civil rights violations against all defendants, how do you find? All liable. Whispers erupted, a tide of shock and relief. Naomi stayed stoic, but Eric's eyes shimmered, Ariel exhaling a soft sigh. And damages? Barnes pressed. We award $2 million in compensatory damages for medical costs, therapy and education, the forewoman said, then paused, her voice rising. Plus punitive damages, $5 million against the district, $1 million against Wexley, $2 million against Roar. The $10 million total, among the state's largest for school misconduct, drew gasps. The jury is dismissed, Barnes declared. Judgment entered for the plaintiff on all counts. Could justice feel sweeter? The courtroom buzzed with a chaotic symphony of murmurs and rustling as the monumental $10 million verdict sank in, a historic blow against Lakeside School District's negligence. Ms. Roar sat like a statue, her face drained of all color, her once unshakable arrogance shattered into dust. Could she even process her downfall? Principal Wexley stared into the void, his career crumbling before his eyes, a man reduced to a shell of his former authority. The district's attorneys scrambled, their phones pressed to their ears, frantically relaying the catastrophic news to Superintendent Palmer. Grace Yamada turned to the Daniels family, her steely professionalism giving way to a rare, heartfelt warmth. "Congratulations," she said, her voice soft but triumphant as she gathered her papers. "Justice was served today." Naomi's military composure softened, her eyes glistening with gratitude. "Thank you," she murmured, her voice thick. "For everything." As the crowd began to disperse, a man in a crisp dark suit approached, his presence cutting through the chaos. He flashed a badge with quiet authority. "Detective Michael Sullivan, Special Victims Unit. Ms. Rohr, you're coming with me." Rohr's head snapped up, confusion twisting her features. "What? Why?" Sullivan's tone was calm but unyielding. "We're reopening 2 prior complaints from former students. Given today's verdict and new witness statements, the DA's authorized charges of aggravated assault and child endangerment." Lawrence Whitfield leaped to his feet, his polished facade cracking. "My client isn't going anywhere without proper. It's all proper." Sullivan interrupted, brandishing a warrant like a sword. "She comes voluntarily, or she's cuffed in front of these cameras. Her choice." Rohr rose, her legs trembling, her untouchable aura obliterated by the looming threat of handcuffs and a criminal record. As Sullivan guided her toward a side exit, dodging the media vultures outside, she cast one final glance at Ariel. Their eyes locked across the courtroom, a silent battlefield. Ariel didn't flinch, didn't smile, didn't waver. Her steady gaze was a quiet triumph, a child standing taller than the adult who tried to break her. Rohr's shoulders slumped, her defeat absolute as she turned away. Was this the most powerful moment of the trial, a 12-year-old's unyielding strength outshining her tormentor's collapse? Outside, the rain had parted, giving way to a fragile watery sunshine that bathed the courthouse steps in a hopeful glow. Reporters swarmed like bees, cameras flashing as the Daniels family emerged, a beacon of resilience. Naomi stepped to the cluster of microphones, her voice ringing with unshakable conviction. "Today's verdict sends a loud, clear message," she declared, her words slicing through the crowd's hum. "No child should ever suffer abuse from those meant to protect them. No institution should ever put its reputation above a student's safety." She paused, her eyes sweeping over the sea of protesters and supporters below, their signs a testament to their shared fight. This was never about money, it was about accountability, about making sure no other child endures what Ariel did. Across town, Governor Eleanor Richards seized the moment, her press conference a bold echo of Naomi's resolve. "I've ordered my office to draft the Ariel Protection Act," she announced, her voice firm. "This law will ensure no child's medical privacy or dignity is violated by untrained hands." The governor's backing turned a family's victory into a seismic shift, with lawmakers from both sides racing to co-sponsor the bill, drawn by its moral weight and political shine. Could this be the start of a revolution? Principal Wexley, his reputation in tatters and his finances gutted, resigned in disgrace, his departure rubber-stamped by a reeling school board still staggering from the corruption scandal. In a stunning twist, Jason Reed, the art teacher who'd risked everything for Ariel, was named interim principal, tasked with rebuilding a shattered school culture. Was there a better choice to lead the charge? In the days after the verdict, Naomi's phone rang with a different kind of call: political operatives, advocacy leaders, even a senator's aide, all singing the same tune. Her poise, intellect, and fire made her a natural for public office. "They're pushing a state senate run," she told Eric one evening, the two of them on their back porch, the air soft with twilight. Ariel sketched in the garden below, her pencil dancing across the page. "They say the case's spotlight gives me a clear shot." Eric studied her, his voice gentle. "Are you tempted?" Naomi's gaze lingered on Ariel, her heart anchoring her answer. "No way. There's bigger work right here." She nodded toward their daughter, her priority crystal clear. Politics can wait. Healing can't. Instead, Naomi poured her energy into a bold vision, a foundation to support kids scarred by school-based trauma, seeded with settlement funds but aimed at a national network of legal aid, therapy, and resources. Could it change lives across the country? 2 weeks later, Ariel stood before a small crowd at a community center art exhibit, her voice soft but unwavering as she gripped the microphone. "People ask if I forgive Ms. Rohr," she said, tackling the question that hung in the air. "I do forgive her. But I won't forget." Her words, so simple yet profound, brought tears to the room, a child refusing to be defined by bitterness, yet honoring the truth of her pain. Was her wisdom beyond her years? That evening, the Daniels family stood alone on the courthouse steps, the building now dark and silent. Ariel, flanked by her parents, gazed up at the imposing facade that once loomed like a giant. Naomi leaned down, her whisper fierce with love. "You were always stronger than any of us, baby." Ariel clasped their hands, drawing courage from their warmth while standing firm on her own. The road ahead wasn't finished. More healing, more hurdles, more growth awaited. But in this moment, they were unbreakable, a family forged in fire, stronger than ever. Could anything shake their bond? Justice had been won, not perfect, not erasing the past, but enough to start mending what was broken, to shield other kids from Ariel's fate, to turn one girl's pain into a catalyst for change. As they left the courthouse for the last time, Ariel glanced back once, then forward, her eyes bright with possibility. The past was honored, the future beckoned. Could she seize it? Sunlight poured through the tall windows of a converted warehouse, bathing the bustling art studio in a golden warmth. A dozen children, ages ranging from 8 to 15, sat at tables, paintbrushes in hand, their faces alive with focus or bursting with joy. At the front, Ariel Daniels, now 13, stood before a large canvas, demonstrating brushstrokes with a confidence that would have been unthinkable a year ago. "Remember," she called, her voice clear and encouraging, "there's no wrong way to tell your story. Your art is yours." Above the door, a sign declared, "The Stripped Project, Art Therapy for School Trauma Survivors." What started as Ariel's personal lifeline had grown into a thriving nonprofit, launched with her art sales and settlement funds, now fueled by grants and donations from across the nation. Every Saturday, kids who'd faced bullying, discrimination, or school trauma gathered here, finding solace in a space where scars, seen or unseen, were met with understanding. Could this sanctuary heal their hearts? Naomi watched from the doorway, her chest swelling with pride. The past year had been a winding path for their family, but Ariel's transformation was a miracle. Nightmares had faded, silence had bloomed into words, then laughter. The wounded girl remained, but alongside her stood a fierce young advocate, her strength a quiet force. "Mrs. Daniels," a volunteer approached, holding a tablet. "Maya's podcast just dropped. Wanna listen?" Naomi took the device, hitting play. Maya Thompson's voice rang out, bold and passionate. "Welcome to Unbraided, where we dive into the real lives of girls of color in schools. I'm Maya Thompson, and today, my first guest is my best friend Ariel Daniels." The conversation that followed was electric, two young women unpacking resilience, expression, and the power of truth. Maya, once racked with guilt for filming Ariel's ordeal, had channeled her pain into advocacy, her podcast a growing platform for unheard voices. Listening to their wisdom, Naomi marveled, how could trauma forge such strength? Did their courage inspire you too? Across town, Lakeside Middle School was reborn under Principal Jason Reed's leadership, its toxic culture uprooted. The suffocating dress code was scrapped, replaced by inclusive guidelines crafted with students and parents, honoring medical needs and individuality. Teachers now trained rigorously in cultural sensitivity and accommodations. The art room, Reed's old haven, was expanded into the expression space, its walls a vibrant tapestry of student art celebrating diversity, not conformity. That morning, Reed stood before the new school board, his bow tie bright, presenting a year of progress. Attendance soared, discipline issues plummeted, parent satisfaction jumped 60%. "The lessons were brutal but vital," he said, his voice steady. "We're building a school where every kid feels seen, heard, valued, where differences are embraced, not punished." The board, now including two parents from the Ariel protests, nodded, their vision taking root. Was Lakeside finally a safe haven? At the downtown Veterans Affairs office, Eric Daniels led a support group for military parents, his own scars shaping a lifeline for others. His program tackled the unique struggles of military kids, relocations, deployments, emotional turbulence, with legal guidance and empathy. "The system's not built for us," he told the group, a mix of uniformed and civilian parents. "But we can reshape it. Our kids deserve advocates who get their world." His calm wisdom created a haven for shared fears, his gift for connection a quiet power. Could his work ripple beyond the room? Meanwhile, Ms. Rohr's criminal case ended in a downtown courtroom, her guilty plea to lesser charges sealed by Ariel's civil trial evidence and other students' testimonies. The judge sentenced her to 2 years, suspended after 6 months, with therapy, community service, and a permanent ban from education. Was her punishment enough? As Roar began her sentence, the state legislature passed the Aerial Protection Act, a landmark law setting clear protocols for medical situations in schools, with oversight and whistleblower protections. The day it passed, Naomi's phone rang with a call from the White House. The president wanted to award her the Civilian Medal of Honor for her advocacy. On a radiant spring morning in the Rose Garden, Naomi stood in her dress uniform, Eric and Ariel beaming beside her as the medal was placed around her neck. Lieutenant Colonel Daniels embodies American courage, the president declared. She didn't just seek justice for her family, she sparked a movement to protect kids for generations. Naomi's speech was short but searing. This honor is Ariel's, whose bravery against cruelty inspired a nation. To every child feeling unsafe where they should be secure, we see you, we hear you, we'll keep fighting for you. Could her words echo forever? Back home, the Daniels found a new rhythm, different but steadfast. Naomi balanced her military career with a foundation, Eric grew his veteran network, and Ariel juggled school, art, and advocacy, her joyful spark slowly reigniting. One day, the Smithsonian American History Museum called. Would Ariel donate her sketchbook for their Voices of Resistance exhibit on grassroots movements? After reflection, she agreed, and at the opening, she stood before the display case, her sketchbook open to its final page. You tried to erase me, but I redrew myself. Visitors paused, moved by the word's quiet power, unaware the girl with the colorful head wrap among them was the artist. Did her legacy touch their souls? One Sunday morning, Ariel woke to birdsong, sunlight dancing across her floor. For the first time in ages, she'd slept free of nightmares, no falling hair or cruel laughter haunting her dreams. She stretched, her hand grazing her scalp, bare by choice now, a canvas she owned. After trying wigs and wraps, she'd embraced her baldness as a bold statement, sometimes adorned, sometimes plain, always hers. Her walls, once dark with pain, now burst with vibrant paintings, not erasing the past but building on it, transforming it. Justice wasn't one grand strike. It grew from a girl's refusal to be silenced, parents' relentless fight, witnesses' courage to stand up, and art that turned wounds into strength. Could it change the world? What would you do if someone tried to steal your child's dignity? Would you battle the system like Naomi, or seek a quieter path? If this story stirred you, share it. Let the world know what happens when we rise against injustice.